Zach Gelb can be heard nationally afternoons on the Infinity Sports Network. And he joins us from the WFAN studios in New York City. And Gelby, we had a bit of an underwhelming NFL trade deadline day for the Dolphins yesterday. After they fired Chris Grier, I was expecting a significant sell-off by 4 p.m. yesterday. And the only player they ended up moving was Jalen Phillips a couple days earlier to Philly. And I understand if there were no offers, there's no offers. But were you surprised that a team like the Dolphins, who kind of, I thought, telegraphed, hey, we're going to make some changes, we're going to get rid of the general manager, and we need someone to be in charge of that. Are you surprised that they didn't have a big sell-off yesterday?
Yes and no. Oh, there's a lot of echo right there. There we go. We're good. All righty. Yes and no. When they got rid of Chris Grier, I said it's either, well, we all knew that it was time for him to go. But in terms of why now, it's either they didn't want him to make those decisions or he wasn't comfortable in getting rid of a lot of those guys and making those decisions to trade off the assets without knowing what his job security was at. I did anticipate they would make more moves. I thought for sure Chubb would be gone. Phillips obviously gets traded. In terms of Waddle and Achane, I didn't know what to expect because those guys are still good young players. And unless if you would have got blown away with an offer, which you weren't getting for Devon Achane just because of the position, it would be more for Waddle. Unless if you were getting a Sauce Gardner type of offer, which the Colts given up 2 first-round picks, which was an overpay. I did not anticipate that Waddle would end up getting dealt.
Uh-oh, Crowder, you're muted.
Solana actually was saying that too, where Waddle is a young, good receiver. Like, what would a guy like that go for, do you think? Because they're not getting a 1 for Waddle. But would it be like a 2? Like, because they were saying 1-1-1, we need a 1 for Waddle, and I think that was crazy of the Dolphins to approach it that way.
I agree with the Dolphins. If they weren't getting a 1 for Jaylen Waddle, then I wouldn't have traded him. Like you're going to have Tua on this roster next year. Tua's going to be the starting quarterback, you would think, next year, bare minimum, just because of the way the contract is structured. So what are we going to do? Just throw Tua out there for the last year with nothing around him? And then whenever the next guy takes over, they won't have a guy like Jaylen Waddle? I think Jaylen Waddle's an asset. I think he has potential to be a number 1 wide receiver in this league.
That's what I was going to ask you, Gelb, but regarding Tua, because we're all just kind of exploring how the Dolphins can get out of his contract. And then there's this conversation about keeping Mike McDaniel. What's the point right now when you're trying to lose games? But clearly, the Dolphins didn't sell off all their players. They want to win. If Tua, what does he have to do to maybe garner some interest around the league to where they would trade for him? Obviously, the Dolphins would have to cover most of his money next season, but it would be a win-win, I think, if another team can get him at a discount and the Dolphins can get part of his contract off their books while looking ahead towards the future. Would there be any interest? Like, what does he have to do?
I understand that people are desperate to get quarterbacks, and there's a lot of dumb coordinators in this league that don't actually see what is happening in a situation. They go, I could fix that guy. With how public and how nationally the injuries have played out with Tua, I think it's going to be very tough. Even if he has a solid second half of the season, which I don't anticipate, I think it's going to be very tough because of how much money he's owed. Even if you do jump through some financial hula hoops and you kind of tie up the loose ends, I still believe it's going to be virtually impossible to trade Tua Tagovailoa.
Is that the same thing? We kind of had this yesterday when we found out Zion Williamson. I'll get back to football, but I was just thinking, like, Zion, to me, there's still so much potential there, but he's out again with a hamstring injury. Would anybody take a flyer on Zion for any kind of price? Like, or would it have to be bargain basement?
I guess he would be easier to trade than Tua. But that's the NBA.
He's been less durable than Tua,
sure,
to be quite honest. Tua's given you one full season.
Mm-hmm.
Or has he given you more than one? I mean, he wasn't the starter
this year.
Right. And this year,
yeah.
But back to what I was saying, you also have to see who else is available. Like, don't get me wrong. Tua's been a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. And both of those guys have contracts. But if I am a general manager, who do I think is easier to fix right now? I think it's easier to fix Kyler Murray than Tua. And Kyler Murray hasn't always been healthy, but it's just where the injuries have occurred and the coverage of it. I think is totally different. So that's another thing working against the Dolphins is that Kyler is going to, who already got benched, he is going to be available. And I know he's hurt right now in the offseason. And I think there's a team more likely to go trade. Like if you're the Raiders, let's just say, are you more likely to trade for Tua or Kyler Murray? I think they'd be more likely to trade for Kyler.
Wow. I think that would be a mistake, but I understand what you're saying. That probably would be the prevailing notion.
Well, let's be real. It's kind of like when you're a kid, you know, would you rather have the asparagus or the broccoli?
Right,
Ma, I
right.
want
There's
the
no
effing
winners.
donut.
Yeah.
Shut up.
There's no winners in that hypothetical. What do you make
Unless
of
if you said avocado toast. If mom said avocado toast, even though I'm allergic to avocado, I know Hawk would be
no
slobbering
one's
that.
allergic to avocado?
That's
That's
impossible.
impossible.
It's
Nobody's.
impossible.
What are you? Who's
Guacamole.
allergic?
Can't have guacamole because of avocado.
You like
You're allergic?
You swell up.
Like my stomach gets very tight, and how can I clean this up on the radio?
So
It's
just
either
you-
coming out one or two places. That's what I'll say to you, boys.
You don't have a tolerance.
No, like I get sick. That and
No.
mushrooms, I get sick.
You can't
Avocado
say you're allergic.
intolerance.
No, you can't say you're allergic to something if all it does is just give you the
Okay.
squirt.
Right. I don't
So-
think.
No.
there's an
That's
avocado
not what
allergy.
happens. Like I end up on the floor in like the fetal position, in the feeble position.
I don't believe you.
I am. It's what. Okay, invite me over to your house, make me mushrooms and avocado, and your beautiful fiance is gonna have
Oh,
to
yes.
clean up along with you my throw up and my diarrhea.
It says it is possible to have an allergy to avocado. Avocado allergy is a rare but serious condition that can cause a variety of symptoms, including oral reactions, itching, swelling, burning in the mouth, throat, or tongue, gastrointestinal reactions,
I'm not making this
nausea,
up.
vomiting, diarrhea, or abdominal pain.
And here's the thing. I used to love when I was a kid, like chips and guac. I used to love, like, if my dad made cheesesteaks, put mushrooms on the cheesesteaks. And then for some reason, when I was in high school, those foods just didn't start to agree with me. And my mom is the same way. They don't agree with her either, and my sister. So I do think that it runs in the family.
Tighten up, Gelb. I mean, it's enough. You're.
And by the way, if Len Weiner is listening right now, my dear friend, I may need to get out of the city, and I may need a job on 560 WQAM 104.3 FM.
I was gonna say, if you
I
want
may get run out of the city.
you want a job on the AM, I think you can have it. But I don't know if they're paying. If you want to be on the FM, it's
What is that, Radio Libre?
no, it's still 560.
Oh.
We just it's kind of just there. Although I saw
okay.
someone at the gas station today recognize me, and he's like, "I still listen on the AM." I was like, "Good for you." There's
So it's on both the AM and the FM.
something about
Yeah.
the crackle of the AM. I love that. You're in New York. What did you make, and what are New Yorkers making of what the Jets did yesterday? They punted on everything. Kind of had the fire sale that I thought the Dolphins were going to have.
I thought you were going to talk about the election there for a second. I was like, all right, I'm going to just close out the chat real quickly. So I think everyone was shocked on Sauce Gardner. People thought there was a good chance Quentin Williams was going to get traded. The fact that the Jets got 2 first-round picks for Sauce, who I've been saying this for a year and a half. Sauce Gardner is a good player, a fine player. He is not this great player that you saw the first 2 seasons. The last year and a half, he has been vastly overrated. Like I remember in New York 2 years ago, I said, Pat Surtain is better than Sauce Gardner. Everyone looked at me and said I was crazy. And now they look at me and they say that I was absolutely right. So the Jets getting 2 first-round picks for Sauce is good. For Quentin Williams, they're totally in a rebuild. He's a good player. So they get a first and a second. They now have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. So you could sit here and say, okay, the Jets, which they've been rebuilding my entire life, and like, all right, it's a good job by Darren Muji because this team just absolutely stunk. They got something for their resources, and now they could fully invest in a rebuild. But ultimately, they got a hit on 4 of these 5 first-round picks. And I'll give you one mulligan, but the one mulligan it can't be is on the quarterback, and that's the interesting part to me. If they take a quarterback this year, it's either going to be Dante Moore, Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza. None of those names we think are highly coveted names. So do they take a quarterback this year or do they wait for next year? But what did everyone tell us a year ago? Oh, wait for that 2026 NFL draft class. The quarterbacks are going to be unbelievable. And right now they don't look like they're going to be unbelievable. So it's a crapshoot in the quarterback drafting business. But when Muji makes the pick, he has to get it right because if he doesn't, then that will be the death of him in New York.
And Gelby on the other side of that trade, though. So like you say, Sauce Gardner, I still think he's a very extremely good corner, a Hall of Fame ability. I'll put it that way. He has all the tools in his toolbox. And then Quentin Williams. Did the Cowboys or the Colts get better with their additions? Because you obviously trade thinking that you're right on the edge of something.
Yeah, so the Colts are in better position for this year. And I look at that and I say, okay, that means they really believe in Daniel Jones as long as he doesn't get hurt. That's why they give up the next year first-round pick, and Daniel Jones is going to be back. The question is he back on a franchise tag, or is it one of those Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold 3-year deals for $100 million? I think Quentin Williams is the better of the two players between him and Sauce Gardner, in my opinion. And if you're the Cowboys, if you factor it in with the trade for Micah Parsons, let me be clear, I'd still rather have Micah than the players I'm about to mention. But now they have Kenny Clark, they have Quentin Williams, and then another first-round pick that they got back from the Micah Parsons trade. So if they hit on that first round pick, and this is the thing for the Cowboys, their offense is good enough. I know it hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, but Dak's, regardless of what Draymond Green's about to say, calling him a bum, which I don't get. But Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. CeeDee Lamb's a great wide receiver. George Pickens, he'll be back. They'll find a way to get the deal done. They have enough on offense. Now it's how do you make a garbage defense just be serviceable? If the Cowboys in this offseason can get their defense to be serviceable, then they can make the postseason next year. So I still would have kept Micah Parsons, but I think between the two, I'd rather have Quinnen over Sauce, but you're going to see more of the return on Sauce in bigger leverage spots because of the fact the Colts will be in the playoffs and the Cowboys won't be.
Gelby, we're going to be out of time here, so I'm just going to ask you for your prediction on Sunday because I'm fascinated by this Dolphins-Bills game. Because the Dolphins, they had one good game this season against Atlanta. They had another win against the Jets. But I don't understand how you can somehow muster up something against Buffalo when the GM's been fired. I mean, the team, the front office has said we've given up on the season. Everyone was for sale. They got rid of Jalen Phillips. They didn't sell off anyone else, but everyone was for sale. Mike McDaniel seems like dead man walking. It's a disaster. How can the Dolphins stick with Buffalo? Dolphins are 9-point home dogs on Sunday. Would you take that 9?
I would lay the 9 with the Buffalo Bills because like what you said, it was close the first time. They already had the rah-rah effort up against the Buffalo Bills. It seems like as long as the Bills have a pulse, even if it isn't pretty, they should be able to beat this team by 10 points. And if it was McDaniel that got fired, maybe there's an interim boost. With Chris Grier, the general manager, being out, I don't think there's an interim boost. The only way that this game is close is if Josh Allen just becomes a turnover machine and that offensive line gets abused by the Dolphins. But once again, the Dolphins just traded Jalen Phillips, so it's kind of tough for me to see this Dolphins defense really doing much damage up against the Buffalo Bills.
Zach Gelb from the WFAN studios in New York. We will talk to you next Wednesday. See you, Gelby.
No Heat Nuggets talk? Come on, Solana.
9.5-point dogs tonight, the Heat. They have a tough time in Denver.
I would have spent 30 minutes on the Heat versus Nuggets, Gelb. You know that.
Play Peppers! Play Peppers!
Probably not tonight. Probably no
I'm sending my resume to Florida now. I could be on the move, all right?
Len.Weiner at Odyssey.com. All right, see you, Gelby.
Later, guys.